So, you've decided you want to get an EKKO. Congratulations.
We think you made an excellent choice, being that we have an EKKO too. This is ours.
But now that the EKKO is available on two different chassis, the Sprinter and the Transit, and with a different floor plan on each one, the SprEKKO and EKKO, you might be wondering which one is right for you.
So in this video, we're going to take a look at some comparison areas where things might be just a little bit different, and it might help sway you one way or the other, depending on what kind of RVer you are.
That's right, that's right. So we're going to go through about 6 areas, and we're going to kind of do a little compare and contrast in each one.
And before we go on, if you haven't seen our SprEKKO tour, go watch that first, because in this video we're assuming you've already had the walkthrough of the SprEKKO. You kind of know what it looks like.
I like you keep calling it the SprEKKO. We're gonna make that stick. And so yeah, this is not going to be a full review. We're going to just focus on like things that are a little bit different, and we got about 6 of them, so let's get going. So let's talk about the gear garage. This is a key feature of the EKKO, at least it was for us.
Yeah, and so we assume it's going to be a big deal for some of you. Now this is the Sprinter EKKO's gear garage, and the measurements are a little bit different.
Yeah, they're largely similar, but there are some key differences. Like the biggest difference is in the Sprinter EKKO, this shelf is now 16 inches wide.
Yes,
whereas
and
in the Transit EKKO,
it was 5 inches. It's only 5 inches wide.
So
it's a big difference.
It's the same height in both of them, the shelf is.
It's 7 inches high from the ground, so it's going to take some of your height away, having that shelf there.
But the overall gear garage height, like on this other part, that is the same in both.
Yes, it was 41 inches in both from the floor up, but again, it's going to be like 34 inches from the shelf up here in the SprEKKO, so that's a little different.
Now, the other thing, though, that you get with the Sprinter EKKO is you get a little more width, side to side.
And that, let's see,
it's 4 inches more.
33 inches wide overall is what we measured.
In the Sprinter, and then 29 in the Transit EKKO.
Yep, so 4 inches narrower in ours than this, so it's a little bit wider. So that could be a good thing.
A little bit wider, but more of a shelf.
Yeah.
So depending on what you're trying to bring, like 2 bikes, you'd probably have to work out something where one bike went up and one bike went down.
Yeah, I think you'd be fine. In the other video we did, you probably remember seeing James roll his road bike, and there was plenty of room for us to figure out 2 road bikes, which is what we get in the Transit EKKO anyway.
Yeah,
so.
But depending on, like, maybe if you've got a mountain bike with enormous handlebars, like, giant 6-foot wide handlebars, then maybe they're not going to fit width-wise, but you'll have to turn the wheel, whatever.
Well, where there's a will, there's a way. You can get 2 bikes in either. I'm sure of it.
Yeah. Now, they both have L-track, in 4 different, all 4 corners.
Yep.
So you've got the same capability to tie things down in each of them.
And they both have the 3 doors, which is awesome, having all that access on 3 sides.
Yeah. Oh, and I guess that's another difference, right? The doors are wider in the Sprinter EKKO.
Yes.
So, again, it may be easier to get something in the door if the door was a couple inches wider.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's the big difference. Number 1 is the gear garage, and for us, that's a pretty important one.
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's talk about the elephant in the parking space, and that is the extra length. And it is true, the Sprinter EKKO is a bit longer than the Transit EKKO.
Yeah, it's 24 feet 8 inches. And when we were picking out our next RV, one of our main criteria was staying under 24 feet.
Yeah, that was a big one for us.
Yeah, so would we have looked the other way on the extra 8 inches? Maybe.
It was pretty important. So now what we've done, so numbers on a sheet are one thing, right? But what we've done here is we've brought them into a parking lot, we've lined them up, noses to the line, and so now you can see exactly what this extra length looks like in a parking space or out of the back of a parking space. Yeah. And they both hang over the parking space a bit. The EKKO hangs over a bit, or the Sprinter EKKO hangs over a bit more.
Yeah.
Now, is that important to you? I don't know. If you plan to do a lot of urban camping or something like that, maybe.
Some campgrounds have real small spots. Maybe you'd want to stay smaller for that.
Yeah, I can't say if that's important to you, but this is what it is. So now you know, make your decision. Okay, so let's talk about the drive. And the first thing I want to say about the drive, we're on the interstate now, and this digital rear view mirror is the bomb.
Yes, I love it.
That is awesome.
Really nice. Picture is super crisp.
Anyway, but so earlier today we were on some dirt roads,
Yes.
and that's probably the main observation of the drive in the Sprinter EKKO is that when we were on those dirt roads earlier, I had the utmost confidence that I would be able to handle anything that road was going to throw at us in the Sprinter EKKO.
Yeah, it was great. And when we were coming here to Colorado, we were in our own EKKO, and we stopped at a few BLM places out deep on some dirt Forest Service roads, and there were 2 spots we wanted to get to that we actually had to turn around because the ruts were so big. We didn't think we had the clearance in our transit-based EKKO. But if we would have had the SprEKKO,
Yeah.
we would have been totally fine
Good to
getting
go.
those
We'd have
spots. So that's some place where I think the SprEKKO really shines.
Yeah, now the flip side of that is it's higher up. And so I am noticing as I'm driving a bit more sway, body roll kind of thing as I'm driving along.
Interesting.
Now, to the interstate where we're driving now, they can both get the job done on the interstate. We're doing fine here. But if I had to bet my life on being able to accelerate from 60 miles an hour to 80 miles an hour and get around a semi in a quarter of a mile, I would want to do that in our Transit EKKO. It's just got a little more oomph.
It does. It seems to have more power, and it does so well on highways. They both do well on highways. We're nitpicking here, but I think the nod would go to the Transit for highway driving.
Yeah, and it does handle a little better too, just because it's lower down, and maybe it's not fair because ours has some suspension improvements. And to be fair, a lot of people have done suspension improvements to the Transit EKKO to make it a lot more off-road capable.
Yes.
So, but this one comes that way out of the gate.
Right. Another nod to the SprEKKO. I just want to say the cab is just so luxurious, and it just feels swanky. We've got leather seats. We've got this high clearance for tall people.
Tall people would definitely prefer the Sprinter EKKO, I think. So I guess what it really comes down to, if you're going to be doing or what I would say, I can't say what you would do, but if I were going to be putting more miles on the highway, if that's the kind of RVer I was, I would probably lean towards the Transit EKKO. It's got a little more pep, handles a little better on the highway. That's where I would go. If I was going to be putting a lot more time in going deep off-road, something beyond just your basic Forest Service road, I would give the nod to the Sprinter EKKO.
Right.
That's sort of my opinion. I think probably that's what you would say too.
I think so too. So it kind of depends on what type of RVer you are, but it's certainly something to consider.
There you go.
All right, so let's talk about some of the differences in the bedroom. And the biggest one is the beds are 4 inches longer. These are a full 80-inch twin-size mattress. So if you're tall, you're going to really like the beds in the Sprinter EKKO.
Well, between the length of the beds and then the extra room and the overhead in the cab, I'm kind of thinking that the Sprinter EKKO is sort of the tall person's
that's
coach.
true. Yeah, and it's just more spacious inside overall anyway.
So the length of the beds definitely, and that's the other thing they could choose. Standard size sheets is 80 inches. Twin XL is 80 inches long.
Yeah.
Another thing I noticed is that there's no air conditioner.
Oh, I noticed that too.
The air conditioner is moved to the midship. So it might be a little more quiet for sleeping in here.
Right. And if that's important to you, having it out of the bedroom might be good. I think, we like that the AC is in the back when you're working up front. James works.
A conference call at the front table in ours with the air conditioner all the way in the back is no problem at all. People can't hear that in the Transit EKKO. Whereas in this one, it's kind of midship. You might hear it a little more.
Right. But I think that'll be nice for sleeping. It won't be so loud, and people will like that.
People will appreciate that. Also, the vent configuration seems different. We've each got one vent here, and in the Transit EKKO, there's just like one vent here that's really, really strong.
Right. And then there's 2 over on this side. So there's 3 total in that. So
I'm going to give the nod for venting to this one. The other thing I noticed is just due to the fact that there's not a refrigerator right there, the shoulder room coming back into the bedroom.
The wider entrance into the bedroom, at least for the upper half, because there's this nice little curve in the wall, and that makes a difference, because we actually passed each other just now there, and we don't normally do that in our Transit.
True. I got kind of a shoulder problem, and so getting through with her standing in the hallway there is not really possible. But in this, we just did it,
right?
And it works.
It was great having that extra space. So a few minor things in the bedroom, but I think tall people are really gonna like this Sprinter EKKO.
All right, so here we are up in the lounge area of the SprEKKO, the Sprinter-based EKKO, and this area is one of the key differences between the two.
Yes.
And I'm just going to jump right in and let's talk about the seat belts. Now, in the regular Transit EKKO, you've got sort of automotive seats, little 2-bucket seats, and 2 3-point seat belts.
Right.
In this one, you do have a 3-point seat belt, but only one.
Correct.
And it's in some place it can be configured in other ways. So to my thinking, I know in the regular Transit EKKO, you can get 2 car seats.
Yes.
This one seems like it's set up for 1.
Right.
And if I had to put my money on a car seat saving someone's life, I'd probably lean towards the seats in the Transit EKKO. But this one is also fine.
Yes. And you also get the lap belt across the way. In that one, you're sitting, facing sideways, though. With a 3-point here in the SprEKKO, you are facing forward.
Yeah.
So you get those 2 seat belts in the back. Another thing I noticed in the SprEKKO here, these 2 cab seats, they actually raise to the same height as the seats here. And when the
as
table
you can see,
is
I'm laid across both of them there.
Yeah, if you have a big family, you can get a lot of people around that middle table here, and that's impressive. In our transit-based EKKO, you have to sit on a cushion to get yourself raised up to the level of the table in the transit-based
Yeah, and we did that just
EKKO.
with the Mercedes seat, electric seat.
We got this
just
to
raised
the same
it up
level.
and boom, there we go.
Yeah.
Another thing is here you can sleep a third person in this lounge space without having to go to the pop top.
Right.
So if you needed to bring along or wanted to bring along, another person to sleep, possible in the Sprinter EKKO, not so much in the Transit EKKO. I mean, there are things like the cab beds, that works in both of them.
Right.
The pop top, that'll be available. But without a pop top, you can get that person sleeping in here.
And that brings up how the SprEKKO is just more flexible up front. And you've got you can set the one dinette over here and the seat facing forward. You've got the big dinette in this whole lounge area. You've got the bed. And really, the SprEKKO is just going to win for the space up front. But that comes at a cost of extra length. And for us, this stuff isn't all that important for us for the way we RV. Not dissing the Sprinter EKKO at all, but for the way we RV, we don't need all this flex space.
Yeah, and this is getting a little personal about what we like, but we do not like having to convert spaces from one thing to another, right?
Yeah.
If we'll set it up the way we want it and we'll just leave it that way.
Yeah.
And so being able to, I want to watch TV, now let's move this, take this, move this here.
Yeah.
That's not the way we roll at all.
Yeah, and it's just us RVing. The kids are grown, they're not coming with us. They have their own RV. And so that makes a difference too, that we don't need this extra flex space.
Yeah, but I do need a place to work.
True.
And that is just fine. I would actually almost even with the slidey table thing. I don't know. I might even give the nod to the transit-based EKKO for a place to work for one person. Yeah. You get that fixed table and forward-facing seats. Easier to work. Like, I don't know how it would work while you were driving in this one. Sometimes in our transit EKKO, I could work while you're actually driving. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how we do that. That wouldn't work quite as well.
Well, not with this table, but it would work with this table
the smaller,
raised.
but that's a little smaller. But
True. Interesting. So just more things to think about.
But it really all comes down to the way you RV.
Yes.
And is the flexibility and the extra seating and extra sleeping, is that important to you? Or would you rather stay small?
Absolutely.
That's your decision between the two. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the electrical system and the differences between the two. And this may get a little technical, but stick with it because there's some good info here. First, I want to say that the electrical system in either of these rigs, the Sprinter EKKO or the Transit EKKO, is more than adequate. You're going to be able to run the air conditioner off of batteries while you're completely disconnected. You've got the same, or similar generator options in both of them if you decide that's something you need. So very similar, so I'm kind of nitpicking here, little things, but there are some differences that you should be aware of. So first, either one, you can get a 1 battery and a generator option, or a double up battery option. Now in the Transit EKKO, you get 2 320 amp hour batteries. They're lithium batteries, same Lithionics batteries with internal heaters, that's all the same. But in the Transit EKKO, you get 2 320 amp hour batteries if you double up and drop the generator. In the Sprinter EKKO, you get 1 630 amp hour battery if you double up and drop the generator. Now, me personally, I would probably lean towards the more battery capacity, and I like having 2 batteries because when you run heavy loads, it kind of shares the load across the 2 batteries. That's probably the way I would go. But again, you have to decide if that's something that's important to you. Now, charging. They're both going to charge just fine. They've both got second alternators. In the Transit EKKO, there's a 170 amp Balmar alternator to charge the lithium batteries. In the Sprinter EKKO, there is a 280 amp Nations alternator to charge the batteries. So a more powerful alternator in the Sprinter EKKO versus the Transit EKKO. What that means to you is greater charging speed. You will charge up faster in the Sprinter EKKO versus the Transit. The charging itself is different. In the Sprinter EKKO, there is a wake speed charge controller. In the Transit EKKO, there is a Balmar charge controller. The wake speed is a CAN-based charge controller, meaning in the Sprinter EKKO, it's going to charge the batteries based on what the batteries say they want as far as charge goes. Like if they say they want 300 amps at 14.6 volts, that's what they're going to get from that second alternator. In the Transit EKKO, the Balmar alternator is a more of a traditional time and voltage based sort of charge controller. So it will charge at this many volts for this long and then scale down to this. And the wake speed, the CAN-based charge controller, is more precise and more modern, more up-to-date with what the batteries want. So I'd probably give the nod to the charging system in the Sprinter EKKO. Let's see. Induction cooktop is another popular mod that a lot of people do in the Transit EKKO. Already done for you here in the Sprinter EKKO. You get a portable induction cooktop. You can plug it in. You're good to go. The other thing that does is that gets propane out of your living space. For me, that was kind of a thing. I kind of wanted it out, and for other people, it might be too. And then lastly, I guess, now that we have more things in the Sprinter EKKO versus the Transit EKKO that are kind of big loads, and here you've got potentially an induction cooktop, a convection microwave, and the air conditioner. That's 3, versus in the Transit EKKO, there's a gas cooktop, so no cooktop, microwave, and air conditioner. There is load shedding built in to each of these systems. Now in the Transit EKKO, it's pretty simple. You can either run the microwave or the air conditioner, but it won't let you run both at the same time, kind of a thing. Here in the Sprinter EKKO, it's a bit more sophisticated. It can drop one thing, because there's more things. It can drop just the compressor or the fan from the air conditioner, and it has an order that it does that in. It's a little smarter, a little better way to manage things. So those are the main differences. All in all, I'd probably, if I were getting something and I wasn't going to modify it, I would probably go with the charging system and the battery options in the Sprinter-based EKKO, but I might try to find a way to add more batteries because that's just how I roll.
So that was it. Those were our 6 comparison areas that we found interesting, and hopefully it helped you make a better decision as you're picking which EKKO is right for you.
Yeah, they might push you one way or the other if you're sort of on the fence. I don't think any of those would be absolute deal breaker kind of things for someone, but you never know. Maybe an extra 14 inches or so. We don't know. You do you. That's why we made the video.
So if you have questions for us, click the link in the description. Come on over to the FitRV website and you can leave comments there.
We'll try our best to answer them and to help you make an informed decision about which of these 2 awesome coaches you're going to get.
But you're winning either way. So we'll hope to see you on the road. Thanks
Bye
for
now.
watching.